Live Stream. I'm your host, David Lee, and with me, very special guest. I think you guys might recognize who this is. We have.
Oh, is that my cue? Stephen James. That's me.
That's
me. Hi.
That's you.
From Capital Wrestling.
That's right. Stephen James of Capital Wrestling. So here we are. Good to have you on the show back again. And not only are you on the show today because, well, you're my friend, you're my guest, but we have something special and deliberate to talk about today. Do we not, Steve?
Yeah, for sure. You hit me up and you let me know that there was some tomfoolery that happened recently that I need to address.
That's right.
So I'm definitely chomping at the bit to address some of the things that were said. You're gonna have to refresh me as we go, but
right.
Needless to say, I know you were hot. I know from what you mentioned to me, I got a little bit heated before we went on here, and yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
Right. So today's show, we're going to specifically talk about the internet wrestling community and the value of the internet wrestling community as a whole. Now, this is not surprisingly in response to the conversation. Well, I know yesterday we had an extremely long live stream. I was on for 8 hours yesterday, but
Wow.
specifically referring to the portion, I was delirious, and we were talking about everything in the sun. We were talking about the show Living Single, and we were talking about food. This slowly becomes a food channel. All I have to do is to mention that I'm getting hungry from being on the stream so long, and then people will just start asking me about food to make it worse.
I'm going to be eating Wendy's as we do this.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, but first let's say hello to everybody.
hey.
Yeah, very interesting choice of name there for. But hello, Mr. Awesome, Dale. Hello, Arthur Pryor again. What's going on? Ron Hawthorne, Degenerate. Hey, I'm feeling all right. How you feeling, Ron Hawthorne? Good to see you.
Shout out to the Discord boys, Degenerate,
Discord boys.
Vinny, Cody, Omega, Tim, Warhawk.
Ron Hawthorne, Warhawk, of course. You heard about what Jerry Lawler said at Raw? Yeah, I did. Tim Castillo, Arthur Pryor, Cody Omega, Vinny, Degenerate, Mr. Awesome. Yeah, you guys are great. Okay, so everybody's doing good. Everyone's happy.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Okay, so let's talk about last night. So last night we had our reliving of the Monday Night Wars episode. Me and Albert, he had to watch WCW Nitro from yesterday's date back in 1998, and I got to watch WWF Raw from 1998, same date. So we had to go head to head. It was pretty fun. But then afterwards, the conversation devolved into who is the most dedicated fan base. Now, Albert wanted to say that it is the Twitter people, and Degenerate, you ought to know, you kept backing him up constantly. Degenerate claims to be trolling, but anyway.
All right.
So, Albert said that the Twitter community, internet wrestling community, that section, that part of the internet, they're the most dedicated fan base because they're hardcore dedicated fans, and they're the ones you need to be listening to. And I said the most hardcore dedicated fans are the people who pursued getting in the industry and working in the industry. And he refuted me the entire way, and a certain Degenerate wanted to keep backing up and saying that I'm being dangerous because what I just told you, according to Degenerate, means that I said all marks must be involved in the business, no matter how dangerous they are. That's what Degenerate said I said from the statement I said. So yeah, even though you said you were trolling, it's coming back anyway. So this is going to be your receipt, pal. So yeah, so Stephen James, unload. What do you think about that? Oh, and he also mentioned that he says, Albert also believes that he knows more about the industry than Goldberg does.
Well, that's probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He likely, if he knows so much more than Goldberg, why is he not in the business and why is he not successful? Because he doesn't, and he hasn't. He doesn't. One thing that he does that Goldberg knows that he doesn't is how to make himself marketable, how to make himself fit, how to wrestle, how to, market himself, all of that. Obviously, Albert doesn't know how to do any of those things, so that statement is complete hogwash, poppycock. As they say.
Now, look, I also want to make it clear, and as you guys know on this channel, I am not for about partisaning things. I don't say you have to be on this side of the line or this side of the line. I'm not that guy. I do think the internet wrestling community has value, and I also think that people who claim not to be a part of the internet wrestling community are, of course, part of it. If you are on the internet discussing wrestling, you're part of the internet wrestling community. I think it has have a specific value, and so let's use this to pivot into the next part of this conversation.
Sure.
I really want to talk about what value does the internet wrestling community have. Now, both of us work for Capital Wrestling, so let's look at it this way. What value do you see for capital, in terms of the capital, where does the internet wrestling community play for capital specifically?
Capital specifically, it's a way for us, especially for smaller companies, to reach out to their fans. You want to get your true 1,000 fan base and then have them be very vocal about it. It's instant feedback, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what you get. It's better than like tons of businesses now. It's like having your own focus group. It's like having your own immediate feedback to what you're doing, right or wrong. But if you're a consummate professional and you know what you're doing, you can go, okay, this person is just saying this to be, hyperbolic or try and get a reaction or to troll people. And this is something that's valuable. Okay, I can take a piece from this or take this criticism and try this way. So there is some value there. But here's the thing. Anyone who is not in your business, the value of the internet wrestling community is their wallet, period. It's your money. That's your value, unless you're in the business. And you want to know how I know that's true? Is because internet fans create their own business off of our business. Podcasts, more podcasts, 6 more podcasts.
YouTube live streaming shows.
Exactly. Like you're creating revenue off of someone else's work. You're adapting it, so there's value. You're creating value off of there. As far as internet wrestling community, it's a suggestion box.
Yeah. And in terms of, but I like that you brought that up. And hey, Harry Flynn, because, and this is a perfect example of why I don't exactly think that, don't exactly believe in just drawing a line in the sand and saying this or that. Because yeah, you're right. You can contribute to the business, and also be on another platform. So it's like, yes, I'm at Capital, and I'm also here doing the YouTube thing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you could do multiple, and I appear on wrestling podcasts too. And it's like, but that's really what it is. And when you look at it, that is the internet wrestling community as a whole. It is YouTube channels, it is live streams, it is social media, it is chat forums, it is the internet. But I think the issue, and I'm reading this a lot in the chat. So guys, don't think I'm missing all your comments, because I am reading them. I think the major focus that we have a problem is it was said earlier, they're a vocal minority and they're just really, really loud. I think the problem with that is it's not the entirety of it, and it's probably not even the majority about it. There's a very small section of the internet wrestling community that, in my opinion, squawk and squabble and complain and whine. And yeah, they're there. And as I talked about over and over again, they're trolls. There are people who specifically go on the internet because they're pathetic, and we need to make sure the faulty genetic material does not pass on to future generations, who say things that are inflammatory just to get a reaction because, they're lonely and they have no lives and no one has ever loved them and no one ever will. So the point of the matter is they do these things just to aggravate people. They don't mean what they say. So I think the problem comes by, if you act accordingly to what the trolls are saying, then you're going to have a faulty product, because you're reacting to people who don't even believe the things they're actually saying. You have to look at outside parameters.
Even with the people who aren't trolling, who are being constructive, they have no understanding of what your brand is, nor do they work in. Just because you have a podcast or a YouTube channel doesn't mean you understand the business. It doesn't mean you understand my business. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean, and for those of you who don't know, there's the wrestling business as an umbrella, but then each individual company is their own business and has to be run differently. The failure that a lot of people have is when they try to emulate business models to a T when they don't have the exact same thing. So like when Impact tried to go up against WWE in, 2012, when they went head to head on Mondays, it might have been 13. That was a mistake, that they were trying to follow that business model there. It's a mistake. They weren't ready for that. They didn't have the financial backing for that. So it's completely different. So when I see somebody on the internet talking about how someone should book something, sure, you're allowed to have your opinion, sure, but that doesn't mean you're giving me anything of value other than impressions, as they say on the internet. You're a number.
Right.
To put it that way.
And no matter what you say, no matter what and no matter which way you think is the best way to book it, there needs to be a follow up to it. And you know what? And to back Albert up, Albert has said this in the past, and I completely agree. that there is a difference between booking one storyline, one angle, versus booking episodic television for a year, 2 years, fiscal years. You know, how long can you look at this? And I mean fiscal isn't financial, because not just looking from booking and maintaining in terms of storylines and writing purposes, but also looking at it from dollar amounts. Because you might have something that you think works as gold for a storyline, but then realize it's producing very little money. And if you want that show next week or next year, you better start changing your storyline. So those are the factors that some people don't understand.
For sure, or you might have a story that is going to pay off later on because you think that the timing of it
Right.
will maximize your dollars. But and a lot of times that vocal minority, which I do believe that that's a big portion of it, is they won't let it see to the end. The reason why I say the vocal minority is an important thing is because if you're angry about something or if you're displeased with something, people are more likely to post multiple times about the same thing than when they're happy. Because when you're happy, you're doing stuff.
Right.
If I'm happy with the product, I'm satisfied. I don't need to talk about it. Wow, that was really good. I enjoyed myself. End of tweet. I don't need to go any further. Most people. There are some people on Twitter who expound like, I really liked this thing. Here we go. I'm going to list this that I liked. I like this. I'll list this that I don't like. There's no balance. All you're getting is extremes. Most of those people who say, I don't like this thing, it's this entire show is crap because of this thing. And it sours everything else. And that's not a good thing to really have you can't pay attention to that.
Yes.
That portion of it.
And
you take pieces of criticisms where you're like, okay, well, this is good. But other than that, doesn't matter. You're throwing it into the ether. Buy our shirts.
Right. Now, one of the biggest things I think about for that specific point of view is that some people say that the internet, it's breeded this kind of culture, or it's breeded this mentality. But exactly what you said, I think disproves